Number 10. A Stone Cold Psycho. Stone Cold Steve Austin is a legend throughout wrestling history, however things weren't always this way. Early on in his WWE career, during the Ringmaster days, Austin wanted to change his name as he felt that the Ringmaster gimmick wouldn't get him far. One day, Austin was watching a documentary about serial killers when he learned about one who kept his victims locked in a freezer. Austin was gripped by the coldness nature of the killer and decided that he wanted to work that icy, unforgiving attitude into his persona. He even contacted WWE's creative team to let them know that he wanted a nickname that was temperature-based in some way. Unfortunately, the list of suggestions were not too promising. Austin shot down proposed names such as Ice Dagger and Chili McFreeze, but he still wanted to channel the killer's frozen soul with his attitude and name. He continued to look for inspiration until one day, his then wife told him to drink his tea before it became Stone Cold, and with that, a legend was born. Number 9. Brock Lesnar's hunting. Hunting can be a controversial subject for many, but not for Brock Lesnar. Lesnar is an avid hunter away from the ring and has appeared on many shows doing so. However, in 2011, Lesnar was cited with a charge of wastage of meat, along with other hunted-related offences. The wastage charge would go on to be dropped, with Lesnar stating that he hadn't wasted any meat. However, video evidence would suggest otherwise. Though the same year, Brock, along with his brother Chad, were filmed hunting feral dogs using high-powered rifles that left very little usable meat intact. The video was made originally to hype Lesnar's return to the UFC after his attack of tuberculosis and proved just what a badass he is. And whilst Lesnar certainly is a badass, some of his hunting videos show him killing small animals merely for his own amusement. Number 8. Wade Barrett's scar. Speaking of badass, before signing with the WWE, Wade Barrett actually did compete as a bare-knuckle boxer across Europe and incorporated that part of his past into his career at the behest of the American Dream Dusty Rhodes during his time in NXT. After one bare-knuckle event in which Barrett won a significant cash prize, he was attacked by a thief brandishing a knife. Though Barrett has refused to elaborate on the incident at length, he has stated that he suffered a 12-inch gash on his back along with significant blood loss and that he escaped with the money. Allegedly, his attacker was seriously injured, but Barrett's near demise is little more than a story now, but it is also a very real and unsettling piece of his history. But if nothing else, it teaches everyone a valuable lesson that messing with Wade Barrett leads to some serious bad news. Number 7. Triple H sees everything. The WWE Performance Center is the most well-equipped wrestling school in the world, and it's also staffed by a host of wrestlers with various types of expertise in the business. It's touted as the ultimate talent development tool, but all decisions in that area still rest on the broad shoulders of WWE CEO Triple H. As such, the game has to keep a close eye on the happenings at the Performance Center. Still, he's a businessman, so how does he manage to find the time to scout trainees? But via closed-circuit TV, of course. That's right, Triple H has a big screen TV in his office with a live 24/7 stream of the Performance Center. In theory, it's a great idea, but in practice, it's a little unsettling to know that your boss and one of the most accomplished wrestlers of all time can see every move you make as you try to adapt to the WWE style. Like it or not, the game is always watching. Number 6. William Regal's Reptile Collection. William Regal is one of the greatest of all time and has often been described as snake-like on WWE television during his time as a masterful heel, but in real life, Regal is an avid collector of reptiles. In his 2005 autobiography Walking a Golden Mile, he stated that he owns 2 snakes, 8 lizards, and a tortoise. The number has likely increased since then. Regal is also a friend of Nerd, also known as the New England Reptile Distributors, and in a video filmed for WWE.com back in 2012, Regal visited the Nerd Zoo Creatures pet store in search of a new member for his reptilian family. The former Intercontinental Champion would settle on a green tree python and stated that "This to me is the greatest thing in the world right here." This is a sweet sentiment by Regal for his love of reptiles, although most people might not share the same love. Number 5. Paul Bearer and Hunico's Mortician Service. The late William Moody first became a pro wrestling manager under the name Percy Pringle III, but it was as Paul Bearer, The Undertaker's pale-face urn-clutching manager, that he became a true household name. The Undertaker's character has been one of the most memorable in the WWE's entire history, and Paul Bearer was the perfect man to have by his side. In fact, he was more perfect than we had ever realised. Though William Moody had first broke into the business during the late 1970s, he decided to scale back his involvement a few years later when his first child was born. With this, Moody needed a new job, something to pay the bills while staying close to home, so he went on to become a mortician and embalmer. Looking back, it's quite nice to know that there was a hair of realism to the Paul Bearer character, and in fact, Paul Bearer was not the only WWE superstar who boasts experience working with the dead. Prior to becoming a pro wrestler, Hunico, or Sin Cara II, worked at his grandfather's funeral home, as he is also certified to conduct embalmment and funeral director services. Number 4. Dolph Ziggler and Amy Schumer, intimate details. In 2012, actress Amy Schumer was a guest on The Howard Stern Show, and she revealed that herself and Dolph Ziggler had dated briefly. Given that The Howard Stern Show was known for partially leaving very little off limits, she got into detail rather quickly. Apparently, a point of contention between the two was that the sex was too athletic for her. Given Dolph's matches, this is hardly a surprise, but according to Schumer, she enjoyed it at first, but she soon changed her mind. She also proceeded to describe Dolph's anatomy for the listening audience, potentially changing the way we looked at him forever. Dolph would go on to laugh at Schumer's statements, saying in an interview that everything she said was positive, so he took it as a compliment. However, word travels fast on the internet, and Ziggler admitted that his mother questioned him about the story. Now that's creepy. Number 3. Kurt Angle's prediction. When Kurt Angle was released from the WWE in 2006, there was huge concern about his health. Though he denied rumours following the death of Eddie Guerrero that he was on a similar path, WWE's willingness to part ways with one of its biggest stars clearly meant that there were problems. Angle was rumoured to be suffering from drug addiction and multiple injuries, so there was hope that Angle would use his time off to get his health and his life back on track. However, these hopes were shattered, as less than a month later after his WWE release, he was announced as having signed with TNA. Angle would hit the ground running in TNA and never slowed down. Worries continued to mount, and in 2008, TNA released a DVD on his career in which he stated, "My dad took a lot of pride in his work, and he would have died on the job. I guess that's the way my whole family is. We just go and go until we can't go anymore. That's how I've lived my life, and the way my dad did, with the same philosophy." The implication of all this was a bit chilling, as what Angle would have considered a proud end, millions of fans would have considered tragic and traumatic. In the following years, Angle has had his ups and downs, but thankfully he appears to be doing well now after his retirement. Number 2. Goldust breast implants. In the 90s, Goldust was one of the most controversial characters that the WWE ever created. A mix of Hollywood glitz and every offensive homosexual stereotype known to man. The character was one of the most hated grapplers of his day. Goldust would eventually turn face, but when he became a heel once again, as the artist formerly known as Goldust, things reached new heights. Goldust would show up in bondage gear, he would imitate other wrestlers in strange manners. Basically, his role was to make the audience as uncomfortable as possible. In 1999, Dustin Rhodes, the man beneath the paint, sensed that his career was in jeopardy. Reportedly, he came up with an idea that would help him stay relevant, and for the sum of $1 million he would get breast implants. The odd nature of the change would have been perfect for his character, and the surgery would have made for compelling television. Vince McMahon allegedly considered the offer, but in the end, the negatives must have outweighed the positives, and Goldust was soon fired from the WWE for the first of many times. Number 1. One Night in China. Following both of their departures from the WWE, China and X-Pac found comfort within the arms of each other, but unfortunately this was not a love story with a happy ending. Both parties were in the grips of drug addiction, and the tumultuous relationship didn't last long. After they broke up, a sex tape that the two had made became a hit on the internet, dubbed One Night in China. It featured graphic hardcore action between the two, as after all, this was the same woman who had shattered stereotypes by becoming Intercontinental Champion, and the same man who had famously pinned Razor Ramon to become an overnight star. The drug-fueled sex was not something fans necessarily wanted to see from their childhood heroes, and a downward spiral continued for both after the tape was released. X-Pac and China both had well-publicised issues with drugs for years afterwards. X-Pac would attempt suicide in 2008, whilst China settled into a regular career in adult films. Both would end up having stints in rehab, but sadly in 2016, China would pass away from drug overdose, whilst X-Pac luckily made a full recovery.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more wrestling content.